Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. What an interesting few days. I mean this really, I'm truly fascinated by how the last while has went down. You probably noticed the big video barrage. I did those videos assuming a very much BlizzCon-like attitude towards the news, but it didn't pan out that way, did it? That's very interesting, and that's something we absolutely need to talk about today. There is one thing though, a tiny bit of housekeeping. Whenever I announced what the Patreon stuff was for this month, I actually held up the wrong thing. It's the mage theme, that's why the magical library is actually this month's card. The Twisting Nether is next month's. That was totally my mistake, so yeah, just important to let everybody know that that's what's up. This is this month. The Twisting Nether is next month, and I confused myself. But okay, broadly I think there are three things that I really want to cover here. They're extremely important to me. So thing number one is the overall response to the announcement of patch 8.2. It's a patch that, based on what they were saying, I personally felt quite interested in, quite excited by. I thought, yeah, okay, you know, they're saying the right things. Obviously, we need to wait and see how they actually pan out, but this sounds pretty good. However, when I looked at the overall responses and a few other things, the thought that entered my mind was, wow, has the camel's back finally broken? Like, are people now a lot more cynical than they have been about WoW in the past? And after going through my Twitter followers, who would definitely skew positive, a lot of people were just basically saying like, yeah, I don't really trust Blizzard anymore. I can't take any of this stuff as being truth, which I suppose given the past is pretty much a fair thing to say, I would say. So that's the first thing I want to cover. The second thing I just want to touch on, you know, Preach and the Summit and all that stuff. And then finally, the interesting thing that was revealed with the mount equipment change, and just how it reveals something about Blizzard that I find to be pretty interesting, and I think it had a very interesting response. So, patch 8.2, why did I end up thinking to myself, wow, has the camel's back finally broken? Well, that's because throughout Battle for Azeroth, you know, there's been annoyances here and there, right? You know, it's not really been an ideal time. Blizzard, in fairness to them, have acknowledged that Battle for Azeroth has not been an ideal time, especially as compared to Legion. Now, for me, you know, I really thought, okay, patch 8.2, this could be the big turnaround. Indeed, I released an episode of the news that was covering Blizzard, or Ian Hazzikostas' interviews with PC Gamer and Polygon, I believe. And that just got so many views. People seemed really thrilled about it, and that meant that I was really excited about it, which meant that whenever that live stream came up, I thought, we are going full BlizzCon mode. I really want to dive deep into this. So I made loads of videos, 5 videos, and for me what was really important about those videos was that there was one on discussing the details of the world content and what that could mean as terms of design direction, and the same goes for rewards, like have Blizzard finally started to realize what people find rewarding. And those are both videos that were not really met with that much, you know, of a good response, let's just say. And then what was weird is I looked at other creators, and I sort of dug around some sources that I have. I can't reveal anything to do with them, but suffice to say, numbers across the board are not good for patch 8.2 related content. Taliesin and Navitel's video, even though it was an hour long, pretty much performed on average for them. Hazel's videos did not do that great, and that's with like her having the scoop from being there. Preach's videos also didn't really do that great, including his Heart of Azeroth video, and this is not a knock on anyone involved. Like, my videos got demolished as well. Now, if anyone is going to get a video that'll perform really well based on the Heart of Azeroth, it's Preach. He is the guy who revealed was publicly, loudly talking about that, the earliest with the most criticism that turned out to be right. So you would think that his video covering the new system would have done amazingly well, but it kind of didn't. And just the comments everywhere, all of that stuff, all just people essentially saying, I'm done, I'm not interested. Even anecdotally, all of my real life friends have, they pretty much all came back for BFA. They have now all left, every single one of them. They've now all left, and they've said they have no wish to return at least until 9.0, and maybe not even then. That's my own personal experience with that. I mean, my guild obviously, did not make it into Battle for Azeroth. Speaking anecdotally to people I meet in the street who, recognize me from doing this channel, like I met a guy in the shop pretty recently, he was like, yep, I have no interest in coming back, but I like watching your videos to keep up with the game. And that's been a more and more common thing. And it's all just kind of coalesced around patch 8.2, which personally, I thought this would be like an Argus-like moment. Like, I really thought this would feel like a mini expansion to people because we were getting 2 new zones. Both of those zones, very different styles to the zones that we've currently got for Kulturas and Zandalar right now. A very different progression system with the Heart of Azeroth that I think, not ideal for the most hardcore people, but basically solves most of the problems and should be, it just seems a lot better designed as a overall thing to collect and work through, let's just say. So overall, really good improvements from what, in terms of intent and what they want to do, yet the reaction seems to have been overwhelming apathy and people not really caring. And that's what really just led me to think, has the Camel's back finally broken? Was that period of time between 8.1 and likely, 8.2 and how that's really going to be a very long time, and just the slow pace of BFA and has that been enough? Is that, just a few more, straws have gone to the Camel's back and now it's gone? Personally, what I suspect has happened is a lot of people just stopped playing the game because they weren't that interested. But they then maybe realized, you know what, I don't miss it. Because I don't think Battle for Azeroth is something that people are really going to miss unless they have a super strong social center within the game. And, I really think that is going to keep anyone in any game. But for the more casual sort of fair weather people, or, even some of the people who are pretty hardcore about the game, it just seems like, 8.1 came out, they played it a little bit, they stopped playing the game, they've not played it for 2 or 3 months, and they don't feel much of a desire to come back. That's just the sense that I have got from taking the temperature of the community, let's just say. And I'm not saying that's got me overall worried. I'm actually expecting that this is a see it and believe it situation, and I'm pretty sure that Blizzard know what's wrong with the game and that 8.2 is going to do a pretty good job of fixing those things. But I think for me, the overall point here is that people's willingness to be interested in World of Warcraft and their willingness to take Blizzard's words and be excited about Blizzard's ideas, that is something that, it has been downtrending, but this is the first major event for me that it really has plummeted down hard. I mean, views-wise for me, like, patch 8.1 is massively outperforming patch 8.2, even like for like. With some of that content. That is just an interesting situation. I think back to Argus, and I think they're fairly analogous. I mean, Argus wasn't even an established thing as much in the lore as Queen Ashara and Nazjatar are, so even based on just concept with like that and N'Zoth, basically, yeah, that's just it. I thought more people would be interested on this patch based off concept, intent, and ideas, such that the coverage of the 40-odd minute thing would be met with a BlizzCon level of interest, as you would have seen from the patch 7.2 BlizzCon trailer or things like that. Yet it clearly has not been, and that is just a very interesting thing. For the longest time, people have been saying, oh, WoW's dead, not interested in coming back, blah, 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 and they then came back to the game. Obviously, people have been, dropped off along the way, but broadly speaking, the damage has not stuck. Blizzard have typically been able to re-engage their audience with new expansions. We all know, like, Battle for Azeroth, massive big spike in subs, same goes for Legion, same even goes for WoD, and, more importantly, for Legion after the disaster that was WoD. But I wonder if this is now the point where that's not a given, and Blizzard are really going to have to fight to get every individual subscriber back to their game. Because this is a mood of the community that I've not really felt, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this through the peak Mists of Pandaria backlash, where everyone was like, oh, it's Kung Fu Panda, boo. Through the peak Warlords of Draenor consistent backlash, which, let's be real, was completely justified, through Legion, through BFA, and, even with, say, the Hellfire patch in Warlords of Draenor, it's almost as if there was more excitement for it, so it's weird. It's weird, and I really want to know what you think about it. This is, like, really important, so I'd just love to hear what you think, and if you are somebody who's, like, excited about it or interested in it, but is in the sort of silent majority, like, please speak up. If if you don't speak up, you won't be heard, and it's very important that we can all just take the temperature of the community and find out where people are. So, yeah, let me know what you think, let me know what your friends think, your guild. I'm super interested to see what people think about patch 8.2. Because I mean, from my perspective, I was really excited about some of the lore teases that happened and some of the lore teases that Taliesin said in his video. And, to me, I was kind of hyped about, I'm going to make a lore video on Sunday. We're going to talk about that image of Bane. We're going to talk about 8.3, the little hints of 9.0 we've got. But after seeing people's general apathy, I kind of thought, well, I think I'll save that one for later because this is clearly the wrong time to be releasing content about that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear what you think. Please do let me know. So with that covered, I think we have a bit of a side topic that's somewhat related, and that is Mike not getting to go to the developer, summit sort of thing. And it's a very interesting situation, word passes around, I think, once we could all really extrapolate what was actually happening when he initially, made his video about getting banned. And it's just very interesting because, the community, I'd say, broadly is on Preach's side. Like, the likes of Reddit and stuff can be pretty negative towards him, yet he was even getting towards the top of Reddit with, somebody, posted his video. And his video was mainly just talking about how he was sorry that he was, involved with the exploiting, and that he feels like he sort of missed an opportunity to go and bring his audience's feedback to Blizzard. He'd been doing a bunch of work on a document and a bunch of stuff like that. And yeah, just how Blizzard pretty much were like, nope, you're a bad boy now, get out, get you gone, goodbye. Which, from what I understand, if you do commit a no-no, that is pretty much what Blizzard do. Yeah, they very much are a big company in many ways, let's just say. It's an interesting thing. It is something that I think did not play well into our little community's response to patch 8.2. I think that was a bit of a downer for many people. I don't think that is going to have much of an impact on, it's not going to have an impact in the patch or anything like that, right? But it is just something that I think was a bit of a dampener on a lot of the online discussion for certain groups of people, and is an interesting thing. Personally, I do think that Blizzard should have just given him a slap in the wrist and, still took him over, because ultimately they invited him there. There's more I could say in this, but they invited him there, for his opinions. And just because he went and did a no-no with his exploiting, doesn't mean that those opinions no longer exist. Blizzard have sort of denied themselves something that they actually wanted. Now that said, I'm very suspicious of an event like that. It lasted one day. I think they said there was like 2 hour-and-a-half-long panels. You can't get that much work done in 2, panels like that. If they really wanted, the likes of Breach's feedback, what they would probably do is say, hey, Mike, and a bunch of other people, and hopefully some of the theory crafters as well, because feedback sessions like that should not just be people who have an audience. Having an audience means you're good at getting heard. It does not always mean you've got the best opinions in the planet, right? So, you want to get some of the community representatives there, like, me, Taliesin, Preach, etc. But you also do want to get some of the old school theory crafters. It's really important to get those guys' feedback. But anyway, if they really wanted their feedback, they get them there. They get them there for a week, and they try to get some pretty intense sessions. Look at, say, the EVE, the EVE Online developer, CCP, and the CSM, the Council for Stellar Management, which is actually a sort of player advocacy group set up by CCP that people get elected to, and that kind of acts as a feedback mechanism. Now, interestingly, one person in the CSM got banned because of corruption and is a real-life lobbyist, which once again just means EVE Online is absolutely hilarious in the stories that it produces. But if Blizzard really cared about community feedback, they'd go for something like that. Some sort of advocacy thing, some sort of proper program. But they're clearly not that interested in that. Let's be real. So I'm kind of suspicious about the whole thing, but I definitely think that just how they handled the Preach situation was very much not, they just were clearly not aware of how PR works. And I think when you're dealing with PR, it would be really useful to know how PR works and to try to predict people's reactions so that you can, use them. But they don't seem to be very good at doing that, so it's a very odd aside. So there you go. That's the odd situation with Preach. Overall, I think it's really unfortunate the way that whole thing went down. It was bad for Preach. It was, I think, bad for the community. It was bad for Blizzard. Everyone lost, so it just sucks. Next, let's talk about the mount equipment thing. There has been an interesting backlash from a lot of the people who farmed up their water striders. Of course, back when farming up a water strider was really hard, and it wasn't just a matter of, do some Mists of Pandaria time walking. It's an interesting thing. I think it's somewhat of an aside. I mean, for me, it's not a massively important discussion because I think that the mount equipment is fundamentally boring, and I don't think it's really doing the job that it should be doing, and I kind of disagree with what they would be doing with the water striders. I really think that water walking, sure, why is that not a special thing the water striders and a few other mounts can do? And then, give people a consumable for their other mounts, which, by the way, is how the game works literally right now. I would have far rather had, mount families have their own effects. And maybe if there's like 20 mount families in the game, just give them all a cool effect. Or, maybe have a more in-depth customization system. Right now, I think it's an overly defensive design where they basically are saying, we don't want anyone to ever feel like they have to use any particular mount other than the one they think is the most pretty. Therefore, we've designed a system to make all mounts be mechanically, not unique. I mean, I just personally do think it's the wrong direction given how cool Guild Wars 2's mounts are, where, yeah, okay, they have a small number of mount families, but within each mount family, they do actually have loads of skins and different models and stuff. But that's been an interesting thing, because that's even a system where I think in the normal environment, people, I think, would have been pretty excited about that. Not the case, though. Not the case this time. People were actually very mixed on that. I think I just want to break this into even more of a broad discussion about, I think, people's willingness to be excited about the game, because I think this is a super interesting thing. When I was talking about the Heartforge, a lot of people were just saying, this is barely any different. This is just like the Netherlight Crucible. But the thing is, from looking at how it works, from, listening to Slootbag talk about it, those things, it's nothing like the Netherlight Crucible at all. Like, in no way is it anything like that. Yet, there is a widespread willingness, I think, just to not really care and to not give Blizzard a fair shot. Now, when I say that, that's not me being a shill. That is me saying that Blizzard have tanked their public relations to the point where this is now a problem they have to deal with, and I can't really blame people for feeling that way. As much as Blizzard may not feel that it's fair on them, ultimately it is a sort of situation that Blizzard themselves did end up creating by how they managed Battle for Azeroth, which, kind of sucks for everyone right now. It's weird. I mean, look, to give you my perspective on, going into PTR, it's very much I'll believe it if I see it. That's pretty much where I think the community is right now. So going into PTR, that's very much my goal. It is to show you so that you can, see it and think whatever you want based on whatever, you see. I want to just present the systems as they are, explain how they work. That's my core goal. So that can really help people just, work out if this is a patch that they're interested in. I'm somewhat hopeful. I'm somewhat skeptical as well, given what Blizzard says and what Blizzard ends up executing on often do very wildly. But yeah, man, it's just it's a funky situation. And you probably noticed, this is not like your normal episode of the news. Reason why is, I've got no script right now. I just, had some thoughts I wanted to get out there. So this very much is like the type of video I would have made 5 years ago or 4 years ago. But sometimes I think for an issue like this, it's better not to have a script. It's better just to sit down, look in the camera, have an honest discussion, and really think through the problems together. So, I mean, obviously this is one way. The together bit, hopefully, is in me reading the comments and hearing what everyone has to say. I am genuinely really interested in what you have to say about this. As I said, I've been doing World of Warcraft coverage for like 5 or 6 years. This feels really different to how other big patch announcements and stuff have felt in the past. And that's why, yeah, I'm just super interested in whatever you have to say. So let me know. Of course, PTR will be this week at some point. I will be covering it. There will be a lot of content on this channel, so no matter what we think about 8.2 now, we will get to see very soon, and I think that's just what I'm looking forward to. I think once we actually see what this patch is, then that will give us some clarity. And look, even if this patch is a total wash, I have plans for this channel's content that are not really tied to the current game. And I think it's actually a lot of content that would be really high quality, that would be really interesting. So no matter what happens to this patch, I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be talking into this camera. We'll be doing lore, retrospective things, mini documentaries. There'll be a lot going on, so don't worry about that. But yeah, anyway, there we go. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.